That's my favorite bad boy.
Like I just saw the lights on, so I thought, oh, maybe somebody already came in and wanted Hello.
Hi.
Good morning. Hi, Mark.
Good morning.
Oh, hi, Dr. Kevin. What's the sequence of the presentation?
You will see.
You go first.
No, you will do first.
Yeah, I was here first.
And
I should feel good birds.
and I still can make errors in names, so it's mostly for myself to. You're ZhaoFan.
Yes.
Okay, then you are the last.
Okay, last one?
Last but not least.
Thank you.
Oh, I love this photo.
And you, YangChao.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, there is quite what is my name, Dr. Dimitri.
Oh my God.
All are good looking, handsome, smart. Right?
So smile more well presented will be used for the next iteration. If there will be leftovers, I'll share them. I wasn't feeling it. Fine.
I will ask that. What's beneficial?
So we have first two speakers. Maybe let's wait a minute if its third speaker is coming. If not, we'll start anyway. Still, do you really need to depart soon?
I don't think so. I have a place to be at 3, so.
Okay.
Like you did,
Yes.
I have a TA class for 12. It's okay if I leave at 12 or
No, yes, we will be done by that.
okay.
Just everyone else, please respect the timeline of others and do not use more than 5 minutes. And then,
Sure.
I think you don't need that much time.
huh?
I think nobody needs that much time.
I don't know. Some of you designed slides like 12 slides, and typically one uses one slide per 1 minute.
Oh my God.
So,
Then I had
bring the
15, more than 15 slides.
I didn't bring the
No.
homework.
I won't take more than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I didn't bring the lab. I know. So.
I'm trying find a polite way of sending a reminder to those who did come. Okay, I think for the sake of the time, we should start. So, welcome to the chemistry 676, right? We are in slash 476. So in this class, we do have a goal of describing, characterizing properties of materials and molecules through computational modeling. And by now, we are at the end of hopefully successful completion of the first kind of 4 chapters. So at the end of each chapter, there will be presentations like that. And this first chapter was theory of fundamental background for this course and practical aspects in the labs or for building models, which is an important step for entering into the world of computational chemistry, because without models you cannot do anything. So the lab was an option to practice some vital skills of building models and operating in the Linux environment, as well of characterizing geometry like lengths and angles. And the subjects for presentation, this symbol doesn't mean that there will be a work, it is random. The subjects for presentation were selected by free will, so hopefully everyone will present what you like. And the idea is that we practice, like colleagues teach colleagues or students teach students. So someone becomes expert in one area and delivers it to others. Please try to give yourself 20 minutes. Here is the list. So 8 times 5 should be 40 minutes, right? If we use a couple of, like 2 minutes for questions, it will be 1 hour. And if someone speaks longer than like 6 or 7 minutes, I will just start kicking from the stage. I know that all of you have seen Microsoft Windows many times, but just in case you didn't hear this, and your slides are numbered and labeled according to your names. So you identify your slide in this line, click on it, and then it should appear on the screen. And then please do your best to help your colleagues to get the skills you are expert in. So the first speaker is Westra, and the floor is yours.
Well, today I'll just be talking about some basic Linux commands and file sharing with Linux. So, what is Linux? It is a free open source Unix-like operating system, and it's often used in server applications and other areas where graphical navigation and so end-user friendliness isn't the primary concern. You'll be accessing Unix in this course through MobaXterm. What is MobaXterm? It is a program that uses SSH for accessing Unix servers from a Windows operating system. SSH being a command interface for securely connecting to remote servers. Looks something like this, as we know from the Wednesday sections of this course. And down at the bottom here, you note that, like I said, rather than being a graphical display, it's a command-line interface. So some common commands that you can use would be making directories, changing directories, listing files, secure copies, editing files, printing a work directory, and opening files. And some pictures of what that looks like is after logging in onto Dr. Killen's server, I typed for a list of directories. Here, a note, you can string directories and subdirectories together to go directly to one rather than having to type each one individually. So going into the directory for this course, being informed it is a directory, logging in, choosing my subdirectory into that, asking for a listserv of files inside that directory, and then typing in for information from one of the files and having a printout of the data for that file of the molecule that I built in JMOL. So the next important factor would be uploading and downloading files between servers, since obviously you can't always work with the same computer. You'd like to work at whatever is most convenient. You can use the scp command to make a secure copy, but how do you download and upload? So that would be the sftp command. So you type sftp, your user and server name, and then the target directory path and the file name, download a file from the server you're accessing to the system you're working on, and then almost the reverse, file name, then followed by the user and server, and the target directory you'd like to upload the file to upload a file to a remote server. Questions?
Oh, you're done.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I've had like 5 cups of coffee today, so.
It's unbelievable how quick.
Good job.
Presentation is open for discussion, and questions are very appreciated and encouraged. I have one to start. What is a period?
Right. So, one thing I forgot to mention. There's a period right here that is not optional when entering this command. Is that what you?
Yes.
Yeah. So to properly format these commands, when you type in the string of information, you need to finish it with a period, which I did not do here, which is a mistake. But always make sure that you use a period when finishing the command, or else it won't recognize it.
Good. Oh, is there any space between the periods?
No, no space.
No space.
There is space.
There's a space?
There's space? No.
If you don't put a space, it will panic.
There is a space.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll try it. Sure, thanks.
More questions? Questions 1, question 2, question 3. Okay, well, thanks, Steven. Once again. I think we can finish in half an hour. So the next speaker is YangChao Liao. And sometimes one computer is not enough, and he will teach us how to use supercomputers, or at least how to approach them.
You have 16.
So good morning, gentlemen. So today I got 2 topics. The first topic is about open account on CCAS and NERSC, and the second one is the concept of job submission on CCAS and NERSC. So let's move to the first topic. Before we open account on CCAS, firstly, I recommend you to read the requirements and the user policies of CCAS, because you will get a lot of information about what you can do or what you need to do when you use CCAS. Okay, so the next step is to fill out the account application form online. I need to provide some information. But the only thing I want to mention you is that you need to provide the information about your sponsor, and also the email address, phone number, and department of your sponsor. So after you fill out the form online, then the CCAS system will send you an email, and you can do nothing with this email, because it tells you the only thing you can do is to wait for your sponsor to approve your application. After your sponsor approves your application, then you will get your CCAS account ID and also your password. Actually, normally your password is same as your NDSU password. So now you have getting your CCAS account. The next step you need to connecting to the CCAS software system. For Windows computer, you need to download and install PuTTY, and it's telnet client. You just need to open the PuTTY and enter the host name, software CCAS, and NDSU Azure, and also your NDSU username and password. Then you will enter the CCAS. For Mac or Linux computer, you just need to open your terminal on your Mac and then enter the following code, including your the host name and also your username and password. So in conclusion, there have three main steps. First step is to fill an application form online, and then second step is to wait for your sponsor to approve your application, and the third one is to connect to the CCAST server system. So for the concept of job submission, before we do submission on CCAST, we need to transfer files from our desktop or laptop to CCAST standard system. For Windows computer and the standard, maybe you need to download and install WinSCP. Okay. For Mac or Linux computer and standard, I recommend you to download and install CyberDuck. Okay. So for run job, before we run jobs, we need to write the script. It will include some information, for example, to request job resources, specify queue and survey, or specify job name or something like this. And you also can submit your job by the command QSUB or check your status or delete your job. Okay. For another one is LERSC. Okay, so for LERSC, you want to open an account on LERSC. Firstly, I want you to check your English email because Dr. Kling has already sent an email to let us know how to open an account. Okay, just open the website, the links, and then for this one, you just need to enter your information, personal information. But the only thing I want to mention you is that the project name is M1251. Okay, make sure about this one. After you done that one, okay, your account has already created, but you still need to wait for there's a step to review your application. So that's all.
Okay, let's thank YangChao, and the presentation is open for the discussion.
So for the how do you spell it, NERSC?
Yes.
You need to introduce a supervisor or a sponsor to open an account or something like that. For example, for CCAST, we need to have approval of our supervisor.
No, we don't need a sponsor for NERSC, but we need to need our department name, organization name.
So everybody can have an account and use that resource? I don't think so. If it is for
We
free.
need to write some proposal to use.
Instead of sponsor name, you put the project name that is highlighted by you. And right now, like I can share resources from this project. For next year, you can write your own proposal. You don't need to have certain title or certain degree. You just tell, give me 100 million hours.
So if you write a proposal to them, they will provide some resources for free for students or researchers.
The only bad thing that they may do to you is you will ask a vote and they will give others.
Okay.
More.
So CCAST belongs to the NERSC?
No. CCAST belongs to NDSU, NERSC belongs to the Department of Energy.
NERSC is a national lab, right?
National facility. More questions? Is there a contradiction with the previous speaker?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Steven was suggesting to use MOBA term, and you told that it is mandatory to use WinSCP and PuTTY.
Yeah, that's what they.
Are they interchangeable, or you require that everyone uses PuTTY?
Because
Can one use MOBA term instead?
Yeah, maybe.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And what is better in MOBA term compared to PuTTY? Are they like if you rank them? Are there any beneficial features of MOBA term?
You can open more than one Windows at the same time?
Yes.
The portable feature is most attractive for me, at least.
And something else? Can you run Gausview through PuTTY?
No.
So it doesn't. Maybe there are recent updates, but old versions of PuTTY didn't allow graphical tunneling.
The Gausview belongs to mobile system, or
No,
on your
it's
server?
installed on the cluster or
So
whatever.
with every terminal, you should be able to
No,
open it,
you
no?
need a client software that enables graphical information tunneling, so-called X
Actually,
connection.
mobile storm and party is only doing your connection, am I right?
Right.
This is nothing else.
But PuTTY does only text connection, terminal connection, and MobileXterm gives you X connection for graphical.
For distant, yeah.
Did you try to log into your NERSC account?
No, not yet.
Okay, then a little heads up. After everyone does same what YangChao did, they will require you to use cell phones and install some generator of additional password. So you look on a cell phone with a special application and type it as a password. More questions to YangChao? If not, thank you once again.
Thank you, everybody.
And the next presenter is Mahek Sadiq, and she will tell how to build models and connection of her talk to the previous two that one needs a graphical tunneling. Right? So let's roll this through.
Good morning. I'm Mahek Sadiq, and my presentation is on how to run Gausview software. So first of all, for running a Gausview software, we need a platform. So if we use a Windows, if you are using Windows, so we need to connect to Linux. And how do we connect to Linux? We need a terminal software to connect to Linux, and that is MobileXterm. So using the SSH command that we have over here, we connect to a remote device, and then we give in our username, password. When everything operates correctly, we can access the MobileXterm and write the code. So these are the codes that we used in our class. So first of all, we opened the folder shared, and then we had various subfolders, and ultimately we had our own folder where we ran gview.exe to get the Gausview, to open the Gausview software. So when the Gausview, can I use the cursor here? How do I use the
upper button?
laser?
Upper button and do the.
So when the Gausview software is opening, we get an information like this that shows that okay, it's running properly, and we'll just open it now. And then the Gausview software basically has two main parts, but when we divide it, we get many subparts. So first part is the viewer, and the second part is the builder. From the builder, we can select atoms, carbon chains, benzene rings, normal atoms, carbon atoms, hydrogen atoms, anything, and we place it into the viewer. And in this way, we can add fragments to build up a molecule. So, well, we use mouse for working on Gausview software. So I figured it out that we have three parts in a mouse. Normally we do have. So the left part that we use to click, and we use it to insert or select an item, rotate the atom about X or Y axis, the molecule about X or Y axis, and the right one is used to rotate about the Z axis, and we use it to zoom in and out. And the center button is actually to the translation of the whole molecule. Now, coming to the methods of to build the molecule. First of all, from the builder window, we choose an atom or a fragment, place it into the viewer, and then from the builder window, we take another atom, one single bonded atom or two bonds open, any kind of atom, and we add it to the fragment. we add it to the fragment that we already have in our viewer, and in the same process, we build up our molecule, we can repeat it, and we have a molecule that we want. So I won't go further into a deeper discussion because I think others will present about how to build up a molecule. So the goals of Gausview software is that using it, we can easily avoid typing the coordinates theory, the basis set, and others. And the calculation can be done by pointing and clicking onto a molecule and using the pull-down menus that we have. And we can generate the Gaussian input file, which we really need. We can generate the Gaussian input file, and we can read the Gaussian output files and visualize the results graphically. Besides visualizing the Gaussian results graphically, we can also graphically view the optimized molecular structures, the molecular orbitals, the electron density surfaces from the computed density. We haven't done that yet, but I researched about it. And then we can see the electrostatic potential surfaces, the atomic charges, and the animation of the normal modes corresponding to the vibrational modes. And also we can see the surfaces for the magnetic properties. So these are the goals and functions that I found, that I tried to discover from the Gausview software. And okay, thank you.
Okay, so presentation is open for discussion. Any questions are encouraged. Questions 1, questions 2. It sounds like everything was crystal clear. Okay, let's thank Mahek once again. And the next presenter, Gwendorlene Chea, she is continuing and going deeper into the practical use of the Gaussian software to build molecules.
Hello, I apologize for my voice. I am not feeling very well, but we will get through this.
So you need to quit this presentation.
Skip.
Number 4.
Right. So today I'm going to be speaking on building an atomic model on Gaussian, and we're all familiar with it because we've used it for at least 2 or 3 weeks. So this will probably just be some review, but hopefully you guys learned something new. If this can work. All right.
It works when you point it to the monitor.
Okay.
Figure it out.
Thank you. So here we have the control panel, and as Mahek said, is the controller, the builder. And here I just have a few things highlighted that are important. I'm pretty sure you've all used this. Here we have the elemental fragment, we have the ring fragment, functional group, R group fragment, and then if you want to modify your bonds, we have various tools to modify your bonds. And something that's nice is if you want to add a hydrogen to a random molecule, it's actually quite easy. It's just a push a button. And if you need to delete an atom, or if you want to delete a bond, there is a function for it. So here is a breakdown of a lot of those fragments that I show. We start out with the elemental fragment, and this is where you select your element, and you have different geometry that have already been set for you depending on the atom, and you can select that as a basic building block to start off of. And here we have some common functional groups. We also have some common rings, and there's actually more. We have more functional groups that if they're not on this list, it's easy to pick from those. All right, so again, in order to start building, as Mahek said, and as all of you guys have done, you either select the elemental fragment or functional group and you add it to your viewer. But once you have the structure you're interested in, you probably want to manipulate that structure. And one of the ways to manipulate it is to click on the bond length. And it is actually located over there, and it opens up the bond length. And you click on the 2 molecules to do atoms you're interested in, and you're able to manipulate the bond. You can change something from single, double to triple bond, or you can actually delete the bond. You can also manipulate the length of the bond. Next, if you want to manipulate the angle of your structure, again, you select the angle. It's kind of faded out, but you select the three atoms that make up your angle, and you manipulate the angle. And I don't have it highlighted. I actually deleted or atom, if you want to delete it, you literally just click on the delete button and you hit it, and your atom and bond are deleted easily. Let's see. Also, this is for dihedral if you want to manipulate around or dihedral, but the next person is going to get into that, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. All right, and while I was presenting this presentation, I just like manipulate things a bit more and found some interesting things that I didn't know, because there's a lot of button I had not pressed prior to preparing for my presentation. And this is the invert. I don't have an image yet, but it's the invert on atom, your structure around an atom. So if you want to change the structure, you invert it and actually change the entire structure around the center point. Also, if you want to center your molecule, sometimes one of the things I found is when I have it in the viewer, if I move it, it's kind of off screen and I had trouble getting it back. So this button actually allows you to recenter it, to put it back in the middle of the viewer. And this, it's kind of dumb, but I didn't know you could actually open multiple viewers and work on multiple molecules simultaneously. But if you want to open a new workpage, you can open like, I don't know, open like 10 and then my computer got slow. But you can open multiple viewers and actually work on various structures simultaneously. And this is to select all the atoms at once if you want to manipulate them all at once. This is the question. It's also be for help. And when I tried it, it didn't really work. It just opened the browser, the internet browser, and it just kind of loaded for quite a while. So I ended up exiting, but it's apparently supposed to be able to help you if you have questions about the Gaussian software. It didn't work for me, but yeah, those are, I think, the most important ones that I found. And once you determine the geometry, once you draw your structure, of course, you want to optimize the geometry, so you have the correct geometry. And that's something we've already gone over, and so yeah, I just have a printout of it. But overall, that concludes my presentation. If anyone have any questions, I will take them.
Okay, but thanks. Very, very nice presentation.
Your voice got better at the end.
Oh, okay.
It's new way to heal.
Yeah.
Your presentation.
Yeah, definitely.
So, any questions to Gwendolyn? I do have one.
Yeah.
If for one of the projects you need to build a polymer, like polyacetylene or maybe DNA, what would be your strategy of using? Yeah, do you need to use Gausview? How will you do it?
Well, honestly, I don't know, but I would start at the let's see. I would start, there is a micromolecule structure. I didn't focus on it because I'm a polymer person, but I don't think anyone else here is polymer. So when I open that, this tab right here, it seems to have a lot of macromolecules. So if you have the basis for it, you can start there. But beyond that, being just brute labor and constructing it, I don't really have an answer for you.
I think you are very close to the answer you almost discovered. You found how to copy paste fragments.
Yeah.
And then you can paste it and paste it and paste it. And
yeah.
then you do repeatable structure, right?
Yeah. Yes.
More questions? If no, let's thank Gwendolyn once again.
Yeah.
And the next presenter is MD, Mozammal, Kamal, Raju. And he will deepen our knowledge on building and modifying and controlling properties of the models.
Hi everyone, good morning. So you already know my name and the topic of my presentation, modifying distances, angles and dihedral angles. So I'll let you know what is angles and dihedral angles later on. So the presentation outline, objective, modifications of angles, distance, modification of angles, and modification of dihedral angles. First of all, so the objective, why we want to modify distances and angles? Because we want to bring two atoms to the proximity they should be. Okay, so I'll explain it later. And to create our desired angles for the better outcome, so more accurate outcome, so we need the angles to be in perfect position. So now let's go for modification of distance. So you see in this picture, the distance of atoms are not same, they're different. You are seeing, you are watching? Okay. So for this reason, we need the modification of distance. So how we can do that? So there is some battery issue here. Modification of distances. So as
You can just click.
as it was discussed by Mahek and Gwen, that the builder and viewer window will come. So I just took here as a carbon tetrahedral as an example. So to modify the distance, I have to first select that icon, the both side arrow icon. Then I have to select two atoms. The atoms I want to change the distance, like one, the upper one, and two in the middle. The carbon is 2. Then this window will appear. From this window, first of all, you have to select which bond you want to make, single or double. Which bond you want to make. Then there is another box for the atoms. So there we have 3 options. Translate group. That means if you choose that option, that will take the atoms with the atom you want to change, that will go through that atom. Okay, that also change. The overall group will change. It will. I'll show you later. The transit atom. For that option, only the atom will go up and down. But for fixed option, the atom will be fixed. The other atom will move. So if you want to make the distance, this is the arrow. So you can change here. You can reduce it left, and you can increase on right. Another option, the quick option, you can just put the value you want, like 1.51 angstrom here. After that, you press click OK, and it's done. So here is an example. So you see, I changed the distance between 2 atoms. So 1 and 2 now is not closer like before. With this option, not only the bonded atom you can make closer or make distant, also the 2 atoms are not bonded. So you see, atom 1 and 2 are not bonded. So you also can change their distance with same procedure. Oops, there was a penguin from Westra saying hi. So modification of angles. So how we modify? Like similar, this window appears. For the modification of angle, we have to choose this icon, the angle icon, as mentioned by Gwendolyn. So now we have to choose 3 atoms. Which 3 atoms angle we want to change? And atom number 1, 2, and 3. So see clearly. After that, this window will appear, and likewise we have 4 options now for this. So rotate group. So it will rotate the total group. That means, let me explain this. If we choose the group that will rotate this, if we want to choose this one, rotate group, so it will rotate this the other 2 atoms also. Okay. and there is a rotate atom, that means only the atom will rotate. And fixed already you know. And translate group, that means actually I am confused with translate group here. So I have a question for Dr. Dimitri later on. And we can increase or decrease the angle likewise. And also you can put the specific value here and click OK. So this is the example. This was like before, and I made it 180 degree the angle. So after modification. So dihedral angle is similar, but let me tell you about dihedral angle. What's dihedral angle? Dihedral angle is the angle between intersecting two planes in a common plane. Okay, so it is like that. Okay, so like that. So these two planes are gonna change in the according to this plane. So these two atoms, I'll show you later. So first of all, you have to choose dihedral angle icon. Then this just for show that all the atoms are in same plane. Okay, same plane. So I choose 4 atoms. For dihedral, you have to choose 4 atoms. So you see, number 2 and 3 they are common. So number 1 and 4, these two planes you can move. Okay, with respect to 2 and 3. So there, after you select these 4 atoms, this window will appear, and there we have 3 options like before. So like same. So for this one you can make the angle less or more, or you can put the specific angle over here, and you click OK, it works. So now for this example, so what I put 90 degree. So you see what happens. I made atom 1 fixed. So atom 1, this was fixed. It will not move, but atom 4 will move like circle. So you see here, the atom 4 makes 90 degree about this surface, okay, this plane. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, let's ask questions if there are some. I do have.
Already we are experts.
So, in which chemical situation, in which chemical situation you need to change the dihedral angle? What's the name when the molecules?
This was nitrobenzene. This.
No, but more general word.
Actually, if you use a tetrahedral bond, that means actually
often in biological molecules there are absolutely the same composition, but they're left and right.
Left and right. Yeah, benzene. You can use for the benzene to move the plane in
chirality, and there is one more word when there is a same composition. Yes, excellent. Yes, isomers. So the dihedral angle is needed when you model isomers. Okay, we answered all together. Yep.
So if you're going to optimize geometry, why would you need to manipulate atom? Why not just build like a crude model and then optimize your geometry?
It looks like you believe in Darwin's evolution theory. This is a very interesting.
Yes.
You want to comment on it?
Actually, I'm not sure about that, but optimization doesn't for the angles, you know, they don't give you the proper angles. Am I right?
Keep going.
You can go. I don't want to mess up.
It is. I did started activity in computational chemistry later in the career, not at the beginning, like several years after defending the this, and it was my first idea. Like, you just measure stoichiometry, like so many carbons, so many nitrogens, so many hydrogens, just put them in a box, let it optimize, and it will make the right molecule. And it took me several months to observe that it doesn't happen. It eventually, if you optimize long enough, it may come to right thing. But if you help computer to select towards right configuration, it will converge much quicker.
For the angle, it works both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But for the distance, it make more optimization. The optimization works good for distance, but not for the angle.
More question to MD Mozammal, Kamal, Raju?
Oh, wow. One quick question. Why there is no bound after the modification of the distance?
Why?
Yes, there's no bound.
That's I explained that you can modify that too.
Page 8.
Yeah, you can make closer to them, or you can.
So the bound will disappear?
No, it's just example. I show these are two bonded atoms. For two bonded atoms, you can make it closer or distant, and you can modify the distance between two non-bonded atoms. Okay, so you can.
Okay, so there are no
The
bound.
distance can be less or more.
So by your decision as a human, you can assign bond order and set let it be single, double, or no bond at all.
Yeah.
And then it will, if you select no bond, then it will optimize based on like electrostatic and dispersion.
Yeah. Just like I mentioned here, that you can select no. You can have like the first homework we had.
Okay, let's thank Raju once again. And the next presenter is Amirhadi Alesadi. If I pronounce
no head in my family. That was
Alesadi?
Yes.
Okay. It's the only chance for me to learn names, and maybe through we tried several times, and finally I will converge to.
It's okay.
So he will teach us how to convert formats and explain why it is needed.
Hello again. My presentation is about a brief introduction about OpenBABEL. OpenBABEL, if I'm not wrong about it. OpenBABEL. So this software usually is used to convert, analyze, or modify the data file for chemistry-based data or chemical data. So, and according to they claim that they can convert 110 chemical file format. Usually, this software is useful because these days there is a lot of software that developed to help researchers to develop some computational research on the chemistry. So each software usually generates some independent format. For instance, our group recently bought software to generate some cross-link bonding for epoxy materials. Mm-hmm. But the problem was that that problem can generate SDF file format. And if we want to use it in molecular dynamics, it's a little difficult because we usually prefer to have some data file or XYZ file. So we can easily use OpenBABEL or simply BABEL to convert from that format to our desired format. Also, there is some common formats, for instance, MOL file that are for small molecules, PDF file usually for protein structure, or MOL files again for modified protein structure. And each of these files can be converted to other formats using OpenBABEL. If you use Windows interface for BABEL, you can see this is a snapshot of the software. Using this software, not only you can you can convert the format of the files, but also you can do some modification. For instance, here you can delete the hydrogen or add some hydrogen to your model. Or, for instance, if you have a 2D benzene, for instance, molecule, you have the coordinate, and you can using this software to convert the 2D format to the 3D one. Also, if you want to use command line to access the BABEL, first it needs to be installed on your server. And using this command lines, you can convert the files. For instance, if the files are supposed to be in the same folder, you can use these two lines alternatively. Or BABEL, for instance, this is an input file -o, and the file here is the output file. And if the files are not in the same direction, you can use you can add the path to the name. For instance, instead of this name, you can put the whole name or the whole name that you want to save the file. Also, it is possible to convert multiple or merge multiple input file to the output file. Also, there is some supplementary comments. For instance, if you put in any of them, for instance, -h, it can add hydrogen to your molecule data. There is a PDF, it's a manual if you are interested for more comments and be more familiar with the comments. Let's look at an example, for instance, for a benzene. It's a MOL file for benzene. You can see this is the format of the data file. For instance, this number related to the number of atoms or number of the bonds, or this column show the atom, for instance, the atom type. And if you convert this, for instance, from MOL file to the XYZ, you can see that it generates all the other format of data, just the coordinate and the type of the atoms. For instance, previous one is not designed for me to utilize a molecular dynamics. I prefer, for instance, an XYZ file to easily develop a computational model. And OpenBABEL is available for Windows, Linux, and Mac operation systems. And fortunately for academic purposes, it's free, so anyone can download, install, and utilize it for his or her research. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Please.
So on slide 5, when you said that you can add a -h and it adds a hydrogen, where is it adding the hydrogen?
It depends on the model. For instance, we had a benzene in our example. So you can generate the benzene data file without hydrogen, or also you can include the hydrogen into the model. So what's the purpose? To be honest, I'm not chemist. I'm not familiar with the chemical concept, but you can freely add or delete hydrogen to your model.
No, my question is, if you have a complex molecule with a lot of unsaturation, like where would it, I don't know if you can answer, like, how does it know where to add a random hydrogen if you're just putting -hydrogen?
It's a very good question. I think if there is a free electron in the valence layer of that molecule, it will be filled by the hydrogen atom.
So
I think so.
2, it just randomly picks somewhere?
I don't think so. I think.
Salimi, you wanted to say something?
I think, yeah, I wanted to answer too. Because I think that this what you said was, I think, right. Maybe I mean it makes sense to me that that sometimes I know in chemistry there's a lot of cases where the hydrogen like is not shown just for being able to read it easily. So, but in some cases it's in some cases maybe if it's not too complicated, maybe it's also good to see the hydrogen, but it doesn't really change the molecule itself. It's just an easier way to look at it.
Right.
Oh, so it's to show that hydrogen are present rather than you're adding a random hydrogen to your structure?
No, I think it's adding the hydrogen, but it's adding it to, like you said, like to the, maybe the molecules that or the atoms that have free valence electron. Maybe.
I think so, and also I think it's very related to the field that you are working. For instance, if you use a model in molecular dynamics to study the mechanical performance. Adding or deleting hydrogen will not affect the system. But if you go through the, for instance, study the diffusivity. Hydrogen is the weight is very low, so there is a lot of fluctuation with this atom. If you delete hydrogen, your model will not be precise because it highly affects the mobility of the particles in, for instance, a simulation box. This is the best of my knowledge. I'm not chemist and I'm not familiar with that concept. I don't know if my answer is right or.
It shouldn't be reported to everyone, but I'm not a chemist too. We have a couple of chemists in the audience. I think David is a true chemist, so you can correct all of us. But I do have a hypothetical answer to Gwendorlene's question. So when you build molecules, you set up bond order, and if you optimize with force field, then bond order like single or double will optimize to slightly different distances. And when the Open BABEL reads coordinates, it based on the bond order of the bonds of this carbon, it will decide whether it is missing, whether it's saturated or unsaturated, like aromatic, or whether it needs to add 2 or 1, or if it is a standalone carbon, I think it will be smart enough to add 4. At least what I observe when I run this option, it what happens.
Okay, so does the -H just give it the option of adding hydrogen where it decides?
And it is available in several other pieces of software like AVOGADRO and HydroChem, so one can draw on the carbons and then click and it will put hydrogens.
So hydrogen will fill the valence layer of the, if they need some free electrons to be stable.
It's not so smart. It's not as smart. It will just analyze bond length.
Because I had also this question. We previous semester we were using with docking software to study some proteins, and one option was adding hydrogen. For instance, for a cavity of the protein, and that didn't make sense for me. This is just an answer that was in my mind. Anyway.
Any comment from the only certified chemist in the audience?
I'm sitting here looking at the Open BABEL manual right now, trying to figure out what the -H command actually does, and all it says is they add hydrogen.
Okay. At least the comment from David was not contradictory. So let's thank Amirhadi once again. And the next presentation from Salim Thomas, and he will drive us further away from Gausview to another piece of software. Yeah, you were on the right symbol. This one, yes.
So hello everyone, my name is Salim, and today my presentation is going to be on how to visualize using JMOL.
This doesn't work, you have to use the arrow.
Okay. For the slides, use the keyboard as well, just pointers.
So JMOL is a software, it's a free and open source Java application, which means that its model its model is free to everyone to download and to modify, and also it's a software that can work on Windows, Linux, and Mac as well. So it's a visualization tool for molecular structures, which is needed by many different people, for example, students, instructors, and researchers in the fields of chemistry and biochemistry mostly, that deal with the chemical structures of molecular structures. So how to download and use JMOL? there's a main, like I said, it's an open source, so many people can download it and maybe change it to make other versions of JMOL. But from the main website, you can download the original version of JMOL. And the main website is this one, just jmol.org or jmol.sourceforge.net. And so after you download it, it doesn't really require any installation. So it's ready to be run as long as you download and extract the. So the process is actually you download it. It's going to be as a zip folder. You extract it, and then make sure that after you extract it, all of the files are in the same folder. And then after that, it's just easy. You just open the jmol.sh. And in our case, for example, in our class, JMOL has already been downloaded for us to use. So when you log in and you enter in the like home directory, there's a folder that's called JMOL 8, which is why whenever we want to open JMOL, we have to go to the home directory, and then after that, choose the folder JMOL 8, and then run jmol.sh. And then after that, we can choose the name of the file you want to open, if you want to open a specific file. But if you want to open just JMOL, after that jmol.sh is going to open. So we have it already downloaded and ready to use for us. So we don't actually need to download it. In some cases you have to maybe. So one thing important to notice, to know, is that it's not something that's, it's not a software that's used to create structures or physical models. It's just used to visualize them. So you need to use another program like Gausview or OpenBabel to add the hydrogens, and then after that you're ready to view them using JMOL. So it has a lot of good features. For example, you can view animations, you can view vibrations, surfaces, orbitals, and many other things. And also another good thing about it is that you can export the data to like many different like file formats, and then you can also open many different file formats. So some things that you can use JMOL for is to measure distances, angles, dihedrals. That Gausview can do as well. It does the same thing. And I'm going to walk you a little bit through the process of how to do that as well. So here I'm going to show, for example, here we have a molecule. Actually, there's a molecule that we've been working on yesterday. And so an easy process would be here. So up here, you see there's a lot of different tabs and measure as well. So if you want to measure any distance or bond or any dihedral, you just need to click on measure. So you will see a bunch of different options, right? So you can measure the distance, angle, dihedral, or delete the distance. So after it's shown, you can delete it. You can delete them as well. And you can clear everything after you're done, because it's going to store all the distances that you have measured or all the angles that you have measured and store them. So yeah, so for distance, for example, after you click on distance, it's going to show the option of 2 atoms, because the distance, of course, is between just 2 atoms, right? You select those 2 atoms. It can be bonded or non-bonded, like Gausview does as well. So it's going to, and then after that, just add the measurement list, and then you can also view it there. And yeah, it's showing there. And for the second case, for example, for angle, you need to choose 3 atoms, right? Because the angle has to be between 3 atoms. But while the second one is the one that's the common one, right? And then it's the middle one. And then the third example is the dihedral, where you have to choose 4 atoms. And like you said, the 2 and the 3, atom 2 and number 2 and number 3 are going to be the common ones, the fixed ones, and then number 1 and 4 are going to be the ones that are going to be used to actually calculate the dihedral. So other features that JMOL has is that you can also you can also change the display of the atom style and the bond style, atom models, and everything, like how it's showing and everything. You can also show the hydrogen atoms or remove them. You can, yeah, to make the chemistry maybe a little bit easier. Maybe, you know, like I heard sometimes in chemistry, sometimes the hydrogen are not shown for some reason, for just being easy to read. And so there's also under the atom properties, you can view the atoms, all the atoms that like are on the that table, the chemistry table with all the atoms, and then you can view them, and then you can view their color, how they are shown, and then their covalent bond radius and then the van der Waals radius as well. So all the information is already stored. So whenever you see a color that you don't know, for example, if you have if you download a file, for example, that you don't know which atom is which, you can open it and then look at the color, look at all the information about this, and then identify which atom it is. So it's very useful software, and it's used in a lot of different places as well. So you can also use the wiki page. So there's a wiki page for this. After you go to the from the main page, there is a link that can direct you to the wiki page where you can see a lot of different demonstrations that you can also really nice features that you can see. So yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Okay, well, thanks, Salim. Any questions?
So beyond storing the atom type list and bonds, like what is the main benefit of JMOL over Gaussian?
So JMOL
Can answer.
Go on.
Price.
Okay. Okay.
Like
That's a fair.
well, if you want to, like, if you do not have credentials of the university and you want to do things on your laptop, Gausview will be like 1,000, Gaussian will be like 3,000, and JMOL is 0.
All right. So then, is there a free open source software for a building model?
Recent versions of JMOL also allow to build. And the next speaker will also present one of the open free software to build models. Sorry for taking your piece of bread and answer. More questions? I have. Is it possible to display simultaneously more than one bond distances?
to display.
To display
Yes.
more than one.
Yes, after you add to the measurement list, so it's going to store it into, it has this kind of storage where you can store it. So you can also measure a second one and the third one and the fourth one, and all of them will be stored. So you can view them all at the end, and maybe you delete them if you want, or delete the ones that you want to delete.
So if you do a publication, instead of making a figure of a molecule in the table of bond lengths, you can have only figure, but then each bond will be labeled with bond lengths, which could be.
It's useful, very useful for publication. Actually, it's very, very much used. I was surprised to see, because at first I was thinking about the same thing that you said, why don't you just like Raju? But then this is actually very, very much used in like a lot of websites as well.
There are some hidden functionality that we didn't discuss and use, but it is very much used in molecular biology, and it has also command line tool to operate JMOL, and then it will interpret large biological molecules, and instead of atoms and bonds, it will make like a ribbons to show backbone of the polymer and stuff like that. More questions to Salim? If no, let's thank you once again. And last but not least, ZhaoFan Li.
Yes.
ZhaoFan Li will teach us about another piece of free software that allows to build models.
Yes, it's a good option for build molecule views.
You can, and go to the right bottom.
Right corner.
Right. No. Just walk on this. Yes.
Alright, and since you are too tired for listening, I will try to finish it within 5 minutes. So, today just briefly introduce another good software called AVOGADRO. Okay, so AVOGADRO is a kind of molecule builder or editor and visualizer. Which is very similar for the Gaussian software, and also we can use such kind of software to build or construct any molecules for some computational chemistry, the molecular modeling, some material science, or some other purpose. And most importantly, we can use the AVOGADRO to generate high quality renderings or the cool figures. For example, here are some examples generated from the AVOGADRO. And the advantage of this software doesn't stop there. Okay. And here is also the cross-platform, which means it can be used for Windows or Linux or even for the Mac system. And it's also the free open source. We don't need to pay anything to buy the license. Also, it's a very international, which means it can be translated into different languages, the Spanish, no more than English, the Chinese or French, with more languages to come. Also, we can plug in the different commands or use the Python scripts in the AVOGADRO. So it's very convenient and easy to operate here. And here is a main window for the AVOGADRO. So you can draw the molecule in 3 dimensions here and also change how the molecule is displayed using these settings. And also it provides different tools. For example, here is for the drawing, the navigation, the manipulate tool, select, rotation, energy minimization, also the measure tools here. For example, if we want to draw some molecules, we can use the left click to draw an atom and the right click to delete the atom. It's very convenient. And also we can just right click the atom and drag the mouse, so it will generate a bond to another atom here. And also we can rotate the view in 3 dimensions, also zoom in or zoom out by using the mouse. So it's very user friendly. And also here, the different kinds of elements can be selected through this drop-down menu. There are carbon, hydrogen, or some other options. Yes. And also we can use the AVOGADRO to measure or determine the bond length, the angle, the dihedral. Or for example here, you just need to click 2 atoms. It will automatically calculate the distance between the different atoms in a respective order. The most importantly, we can use the AVOGADRO for the geometry optimization. So they provide several force fields here. For example, the GAFF, the chemical, or the UFF. The default one is the universal force field here. So, so in general, I think. Okay, so in general, I think the AVOGADRO is a good option. Or it's more user friendly, or it's easy to operate than the Gaussian or the JMOL. So it's my opinion. All right, that's it. Any questions so far?
Okay. Questions 1? Questions 2? Questions 3? It was everything clear.
Yeah.
Crystal clear. Let's thank ZhaoFan once again. And let me show the first slide once again. So many thanks for everyone to be very enthusiastic in preparing, presenting, and participating in the discussion. Everyone successfully completed it and gets credit equivalent to successful for whole works. So you're progressing well through the course. And let's thank each other and complete the session.